evening, the 2nd of November 2020. I hope you've had a lovely day and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of News Report. My name is Salifyanji Bweupe and as usual, I'm not alone. I'm joined by Chimwanga, Kalala. Chimwanga, welcome to News Report.
It's great to be here, Sally. Looking forward to today's show. We have a lot of stories lined up for the day, so looking forward to today's show.
Right, exactly. So Zambia in the last few months has continued to record a decline in COVID-19 cases, whilst the British Prime Minister announces that there will be a month-long lockdown in England, so starting Thursday. So we see, that the British Prime Minister obviously has mentioned that there will be a lockdown because the cases have gone over 1 million, and whereas we see people being too relaxed and uncomfortable with because we are recording a few cases, so everyone thinks the coronavirus has gone and it's done and dusted. What are your thoughts?
So I believe this is what people are calling COVID fatigue, where people have seen this since in Zambia it broke out in March. Mm-hmm. So I think since March we've seen, and then on the numbers we've been on the safer side. The numbers have been quite low in Zambia,
right.
So that might have been contributing to the fatigue. I think people are just like tired of this corona thing. Quite alright, it's there. We've been wearing our mask on and off. So I believe I think we've reached a tipping point where people are just like, let it happen, whatever happens, happens. So I believe there's been a total disregard of the public health safety measures, and just we've seen gatherings have now continued as normal. We've seen bars have opened now. And then just one thing I'd like to bring you to, if you saw the Chanda and K concert in Woodland Stadium,
it was packed.
Fully packed, like even outside, just the car park was packed as well. So yeah, we've seen people getting tired and just life is going back to the normal. And then people, since they spent all that time away from all these gigs and parties, so I believe they're trying to catch up on all that. So they're just going all out now. So
yeah,
I believe that's an issue. Yeah.
But first of all, I'd really like to commend the organizers for really having made that show very successful, and to some extent just bringing a lot of people together. Obviously, people needed to have their stress relieved and whatnot. It's just unfortunate that during the whole event, certain people had to experience the Kalala experience in a different way, where a lot of things were stolen, I think, from their vehicles. People lost batteries, people lost their side mirrors and whatnot. So in as much as there was a lot of I think income or revenue to gain for the artists that were presenting or performing at that particular show. The thieves took advantage of that and, went ahead and stole people's belongings. But I should feel that the next time that particular show is happening, I think security should be, tight at such an event, because those things are bound to happen. And if everyone is lost in it and trying to enjoy the show and forget that, it's necessary to also have, some security structure in place, it would defeat the whole purpose.
Yeah, so I think not to take away anything from the guys,
sure.
And the show was great, and just the whole how it was put together and how all these artists jumped on board to support and the like.
Exactly, and an engagement happened.
At
the show,
Yeah, so that was quite cool, but I believe the timing and just the whole, on a safety side and just on the health part, I believe there was much left to be desired from how it was handled. I believe people were even struggling just to enter, so I believe that should have been put in consideration. But
that is quite impossible, really, to have such a big show and try and tell people to say you need to maintain social distance. How is that going to really be
but I
possible?
believe if we have some laws and just guidelines, I think we should follow them through and through. We shouldn't have any exceptions. If we say let's not have large gatherings, then let's stick to that. Otherwise, what are we trying to do?
What if they say, okay, people were washing their hands and were getting sanitized and everyone was entering
with a mask?
But there was
no room to social distance there, so I believe we should be with the law through and through, no matter who is involved. It shouldn't just be when it's the ruling party having gatherings, commissioning, and then that's when people complain. So I believe we should, if we put these laws, otherwise what purpose do they serve if we don't stick to them? So
I think what is wrong with that is actually the mentality. So the rules, the guidelines, they are already there. Our mentalities are the ones that actually causes us to fail, because this is just a simple thing that could have been followed. but to some people that were felt it was okay because probably the bigger players are just moving around without facial masks or anything, so it could be okay for people to also go into such an event and not really consider the guidelines that have been set by the Ministry of Health as well. And I didn't see any person in the ministry condemning that show. So everything was successful, obviously, and that was not really taken into consideration. But you do really bring up a valid point as well. So talking about sanitation, obviously, and how, especially over the years, our country is hit by, the cholera pandemic as well. It is one thing that we try to always maintain, and that is some hygiene and sanitation as well. And so over the weekend, that was on Sunday, in fact yesterday, the President of the Republic of Zambia was in Mandevu constituency, and he was trying to lead by example as well. What do you think? So this is not the event, it's not the Kampala experience, but this is our president in a place where obviously it's going to attract a lot of crowds because it's highly populated as well. And in as much as the president was putting on the facial masks, but and his entourage, but the residents were not putting on facial masks as well. So how is the message really being sent out there? What really is a message that the president is sending?
But I believe we also need to look at the practicality of some of these laws or regulations.
Right.
Because I think to some extent it's not manageable. If the president is there, obviously people want to flock there. So how do you stop people from flocking there? I think that's another job on its own. But anyway, to the main essence of the story, where the president was cleaning up drainages and just the streets in Mandevu constituency, I believe that's a good thing. I don't think there's anything to criticize about that. It should be commended. But then just the timing, it seems like a one-off thing. So I believe it should happen more often, and it shouldn't only happen as we are heading towards the elections. That's when he wants to show up and clean. Yeah, so I think this should be something that happens very often. Right.
Do you think that's a campaign strategy as well? Because the last time I think he was in Materi was checking on the water situation there, and now the other day he was commissioning the flyover bridge as well, and now yesterday he was in Mandevu here leading by example. You can see him in his work suit, and he's getting right into it as well.
I think politics nowadays have become intertwined in everything we do, so I believe to everything there's sort of some politicking, but otherwise the main focus should be what the person is doing, and the intentions are all up to them. If it's a commendable thing, I believe you should be able to commend them regardless of the intentions.
Right. I have a few concerns also when it comes to issues to do with sanitation and hygiene as well. I think over the years we've seen that the markets themselves have got a lot of people, like everyone is trying to gain an income as well. I've seen that obviously the government is working on spreading the markets around Lusaka so that they decongest, I'm sure, some of these congested markets as well, because we know the bigger market is obviously Soweto market as well, but there's a lot of activity that also happens in Mandevu as well, and obviously what is a long-term plan with the makeshift shops as well, with the restaurants that people have as well. I think there also has to be like some type of order in the markets as well. If there could be like permanent structures that probably the local or the city council will just get a little amount from the shop owners or the store owners or any trader that is there. I think it's something that could also be like a long-term plan as well. We can't always be looking at, let's clean this, let's clean that. Tomorrow it will just be today's job and routine. The next few days it would have died down as well, and it will be on to the next campaign period where such a thing will be done as well. How do we does the government now ensure that at least there is foresight, I think, in what is being done, and so that the people are also motivated to do more with what they're currently doing within their capacity, but obviously expand and obviously open shops elsewhere as well.
All right, yeah, so I just want to bring you back to the fact where you said pay a bit of something to the council. Funny thing that I saw happen one of these days when I was in town along Lumumba Road. I actually saw some big buff guys getting some money from vendors, like they were going from store to store, just collecting some revenue, obviously of some sort. So I began really to question, like, where are they taking this money and for what purpose? And then the people have to comply. They have no option, obviously, if they choose to protest, and they obviously get chased from their stores. But I believe this revenue has to be accounted for. I believe if you collect maybe 2 kwacha or 5 kwacha from these people, I believe it adds up to something, and it should really show where it's going.
And it has to go into renovating the market or bettering the lives of the people in the community, isn't it?
Yeah,
and obviously paying the people that have to do the actual work, because sanitation, there has to be water that is has to be flowing as well. There has to be issues to do with electricity. There has to be people that are, janitors that are cleaning the surrounding, and also the convenience rooms as well. So now I think moving forward, there has to be issues to do with strategizing on how, it's the government or the people together with the government, especially the local. The Ministry of Local Government is going to work with the people as well, to have the president go to the community in which you are the MP. I think for me, I would feel very bad, because he only needs to come to see what we are doing or the development that we have made as a community and for the people in that particular area. So I think now it goes just to our ministers. I think there's a lot more that they need to do, and the president can also just come and just observe what work has been done, and just for him to advise on if there's any more improvement that could be made as well. So then also my concern is, I've heard that sometimes the city council workers maybe don't get paid on time as well. I think that should also bring about some motivation. I think people need to be motivated. I'm not saying that's true, but I would say I heard that they really sometimes don't really get paid on time. So I think people need to be motivated to actually be able to do more as well.
All right. Yeah. Yes. So just back to our headline news story, which is the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Chitalu Chilufya, telling people to pull their guard up and they shouldn't just drop their guard yet, because we might experience a second wave of COVID-19 cases.
Right.
So that's a warning, that's a caution going out to everyone there to just adhere to these public health safety measures and just ensure that they keep themselves safe and the person next to themselves as well. Yeah, so I believe that's the gist of the story.
Right. Okay, so now we'll take a break and we'll be back with more stories after this. Stay tuned.
Senza bwanji mama. Tumiende sako na iwe. Pali pako ma 20 apolo ma 5 kwa jari.
Mama ko ino sachinjira kumuzonda mazizini.
Mako iyo songa chinjeko kubantu abale ndio top kwa na 5 hours mamine bano leyo.
Kamba nayo.
That is why you need to get an e-token, sir. It is faster and easier.
To what? They told Balela and Dapo is a National Road Fund agency card. So all you have to do is just credit it in Dalama and you'll be able to use it per token Monga Paniso. To avoid the inconveniences, so you have to start looking for 20 Chocolate Cherusha Bank. So
Introducing the electronic toll card. It's easier, faster, and secure. Access the e-toll cards from all toll gates across the country or the agency's head office in Lusaka at only 30 kwacha.
This message is brought to you by the National Road Fund Agency, a sustainable road fund.
Welcome back. You are watching News Report with me, Salifyanji Bweupe and Chimwanga Kalala. And if you're watching us right now, you're catching us on your Top Star channel 112, as well as our Facebook page that is Live TV, and our YouTube channel, which is Live TV channel as well. For your comments and contributions, come through on 0976 599-547 as well. Now into our next story, which is quite sad as well. It's probably a suspected case of arson as well, in which our very own artist Mumbayachi lost about property costing around 300,000 kwacha, and so that was his studio that was burnt down just yesterday. Is it on the 31st of October? I'm already in December. Yeah. It's moving. Like next month is already December.
Exactly,
yeah. Anyway, it was rather sad. Every investment that one has ever put in, every little bit, every coin, every blood, every sweat, and then someone just comes and steals all that away or burns it all down.
Yeah, so I believe it was quite unfortunate, and as you've seen, or as you know, like 2020 has been a rough year, like financially and just in all aspects. I think most of people have had a rough patch, so I believe it's quite unfortunate that he had to lose his staff in such circumstances. So I believe if there was any malice, or maybe if this wasn't just an accident and it was intentional, I believe the perpetrator should be brought to book and they should account for everything that was lost. Because as I saw on a post on his Facebook, so he actually explained that an album was in the works, so then some discs actually got burnt. They were also gutted in the fire. So I believe this is quite unfortunate.
Right.
And you can just see the extent of the damage and what would have happened if he was in the studio as well. So,
right,
yeah, so
that's
I believe
true.
it was very unfortunate, very huge loss.
Very. So Mumbayachi wrote on his page saying, "I've been fighting battles ever since I was born, but this one breaks my heart to the core. More than the deportation. Yesterday in Majestics, our studio, the Bamboo Studio, was burned to ashes by unknown cowards, and all our equipment and our CD is gone. But I can tell you, this one will not kill our spirits." And to just see someone who's still motivated by such a loss, because some people will choose to give up, but this one has decided to keep on fighting as well. And so as of today, the police acting spokesperson Danny Mwali has told Bweupe in a statement that around October 31st 2020, around 13:30 hours, Mr. Yachi and his partners in business, identified as Jacob Hoff, left the studio intact and security locked after using. So he just went on to report what exactly transpired, but as usual, the police, I think, are into it, and they'll bring, if there are any perpetrators, to book as well. But it's a good thing that during this whole sad happening, that a lot of people have come on board to actually assist the artist as well, like get back to his feet as well. It can't be easy, but I think with unity and combined efforts, it's possible to actually restore something that has been broken as well. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people jump in to pledge certain amounts, various amounts on what they will contribute just to help Mumbai actually rebuild his studio and just go back on track with making his music. So I believe that's really commendable. It's nice that people have jumped on. We saw the Lusaka mayor, we've seen the likes of Slap D, Mark 2, and the like Mutale Mwanza as well. So we've seen all these people come on board to help their colleagues. So I believe this is something that should be commended.
And I saw someone that has said that they will actually come through and provide the tiling once the building has been done. So that's a good thing as well. And I was telling you in the background to say the one that touched me, I think, was the amount of 15 kwacha. It just reminds me, of the story in the Bible, where a woman had to give everything that she had. And sometimes we think that a little is nothing, but it still goes a long way. And maybe this cannot really be related to anything, but I've always thought people that would venture into offering like sanitation facilities, like these mobile toilets and whatnot, do you know that even just the guys on the streets, the cowboys that will get 1 kwacha or 2 kwachas from people, they actually make a lot of money in a day. Sometimes we look at a coin and feel it's such a small amount, but considering the consistency of getting those amounts, it's possible to actually gain something out of it. And so I think it's a good gesture, and I'm sure he will come back even better and harder and greater than before.
Yeah, I believe it's all about the small amounts adding up to something big. So just helping in whatever small way you can. If it's just maybe helping with the building of the new studio, just just trying to clear the rubble that's there after everything was gutted. I believe everybody can play a part in just supporting these great musicians.
This just shows like there's so much more that we can do as a nation, eh? It just, I think sometimes being silent doesn't really help sometimes. Sometimes you actually need to tell a friend, because you don't know who you're actually interacting with. You don't know the magnitude or the people that they know that they are surrounded by, and they would actually come through and assist you in one way or another. So sometimes we're facing certain problems in life. It's okay to like open up depending on what they are. Not about a cheating husband, but just when it comes to things that are actually are of value, not just to yourself, but to the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, and I just feel like things like this really attest to the power of social media,
Exactly.
and where people are able to use it in a meaningful way and just easily connect with various people from all walks of life.
Right.
Yeah, who can assist. So I believe it's very important that we stay connected and just communicate with our fellows.
Yeah, that's very true. Now on to the next story. There was a statement that the information minister, some words that she said sometime last week, and obviously now there's been a response towards the words that were uttered.
Yeah, so the Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Ms. Dorothy Leah, this afternoon posted to her Twitter a 2-page statement responding to allegations that she uttered some tribal remarks. So in this particular case, she was being accused of fostering tribalism by urging people from Eastern Province to vote for one of their own, thus referring to President Edgar Lungu, the same way that people from the Southern Province tend to vote for people from that are from there. So this is basically what she's urging Southerners to do. So there's an audio that went viral of her actually uttering those words.
Right.
So we couldn't even just say no, it was attributed to her. And she hasn't really denied what she has said in the response today is that people are misquoting her, not really misquoting her, but taking things out of context and just misrepresentation of facts. So I don't know how true that is, but from reading the 2-page response, I believe it was poorly thought out, and I think it would have even been better if she hadn't responded to the accusations.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I feel as a minister of communication, you already know the repercussions or implications of posting or saying anything, and now that we have social media reporters as well, and yes, it's possible for someone to take something out of context, but what you have said and a recording that is actually there, how do you get yourself out of that as well? It's funny how a few words, can destroy, something that could have been, or something that might already have been built. And I think maybe, in as much as you're in a position of authority, we need to really be careful about how we say certain things. Already, I would feel the power is already in their hands as well. I think what just needs to be done is where they add more sauce or add more cream to the cake to just like make people gain that confidence in the ruling government as well, because the advantage is already on their side.
All right, yeah, so she's explicitly stated that she won't be issuing any apology for just stating her views on what she thinks Southerners vote like and what she's advising people from the Eastern Province.
But why is it okay for some people and not okay for certain people?
To do what?
To utter certain words. If it was coming from someone else, probably someone else would have taken offense in that as well. And how would that have been treated as well?
Yeah, so I don't know who is the authority to determine on that, but I believe some remarks, I don't think, if it really doesn't add any value to the nation, I don't believe there's any use in uttering such statements. I think they're very unnecessary and of no use. So what's the point? Like what was she trying to achieve by saying all that? So she, in the statement, she actually referred to a fact where like people from Dudumwezi in 2016, like 40,000 of them voted for HH, while 0 voted for the current president. So I believe of what value is such information or just uttering such statements? Yeah. So I think as a leader, I think she needs to be more mindful. And I think when there's nothing to say, I think let's just keep quiet. I think.
Yeah. And maybe focus on the developmental projects, that they might have, in place for that particular community as well. I think that's what I know that's what I would want to listen to, as opposed to having to listen to what someone else has done or what they did. Like, what is it that you are going to do for me as well? And this just brings me back to a point that I also wanted to raise in line with what the president was doing in Mandevu as well. Sorry to take you back to that. But looking at the disaster management and mitigation unit as well, isn't that something that they also look into, as in isn't that part of their portfolio as well?
What exactly are you referring to?
So if we're talking about like disaster management as well, and obviously where we have consistent breakouts of cholera or what we have had like COVID-19 as well, shouldn't it also be working with certain organizations, or it doing a bit more to sensitize and ensure that certain things are being done so that an unexpected unfortunate event does not happen?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think that should fall under the mandate of DMMU to maybe sensitize people and the like. And I believe they've been on a quiet end. And if you've seen most of this sensitization campaign,
they mostly talk about hunger, but what about diseases?
Yeah, hunger is a thing. And funny thing, just last week, so I was talking to somebody, and then they actually informed me that the floods that broke out in Bweupe earlier this year, I think people are still struggling with them, like the impacts of the floods are still showing, they are still visible, like people are still struggling.
And the rainy season is still coming.
Yeah, and then so we are now heading towards the rainy season again, and then people haven't really been sorted out from the previous flood. So I think there's an issue there. There's a shortage of food, so they were delivering some relief food. So these issues that we tend to sweep under the rug, it just appears in the news for a day or two and we forget about them. But then this is something that's happening. Like people are going through a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then just back to DMMU, I believe most of these campaigns should have been run by them.
Yeah, it's true.
For the most part, I've just like seen corporate entities carry out these sensitization campaigns and they like hold all these events. So I believe they should. Maybe they swamp it too much work. Who knows?
Well, I'm sure there's only not one person in one department. They should have a lot of departments dealing with various issues that are affecting the country as well. And so I'd like to see, I think, the DMMU really come on board and just show, what they're actually
we should bring them on the show
as well. I think that is a very good idea. I'd really like to find out what areas they really cover and all. So can we take a break and come back shortly after this?
That is why you need to get an e-talk card, sir. It is faster and easier.
The e-tolling card is a National Road Fund agency card. So all you have to do is just credit it in Dalama and you'll be able to use it per token Monga Paniso. To avoid the inconveniences, so where you have to start looking for 20
Introducing the electronic toll card. It's easier, faster, and secure. Access the e-toll cards from all toll gates across the country or the agency's head office in Lusaka at only 30 kwacha.
This message is brought to you by the National Road Fund Agency, a sustainable road fund.
Welcome back. You are watching News Report with me, Salifyanji Bweupe and Chimwanga Kalala. Now, into international news, China has kicked off once in a decade census.
Yes, so China will be carrying out, authorities in China will be carrying out a census. So this only happens once after every 100 years, so that's after every decade. So I think we have a video from Al Jazeera.
Fan Xiaoyou says he's part of a family of 3, but this is not a typical Chinese household. The 40-year-old and his wife, Jia Lu, are going against tradition and have decided not to have children. The couple say caring for their dog is enough.
If we had a kid, we wouldn't have enough time for things we enjoy. That would be too much pressure, as the cost of living in China is rising, and the pace of work and life is very fast these days.
Fan isn't alone. An increasing number of Chinese couples are choosing not to become parents. A low birth rate is one of the problems set to be highlighted by the national census this month. 7 million workers will be collecting information from China's more than 1.4 billion residents, in person and online. Analysts expect the once-in-a-decade survey to point to an increasingly educated and urbanized society, as well as a looming aging crisis made worse by China's almost 40-year-long one-child policy. By the year 2022, 1 in every 5 people in China will be over the age of 60.
More retired people means a smaller and a less productive labor force. As the population ages and the family resources drop, who will care for the elderly? It also affects our scientific innovation. Economic vigor and innovation mainly come from a young labor force.
China's one-child policy was replaced by a two-child policy in 2015, but many believe this came too late. The country is struggling with a massive gender imbalance. About 30 million men, especially in rural areas, are unmarried, and those with partners are choosing to marry later, and many prefer to have one child at most. Experts are calling for an end to all family planning limitations, as well as policies to encourage families to have more children, such as free childcare and education.
Young people's mindsets and consumption habits have changed. They may earn more, but their expectations for a certain quality of life have also risen.
Only children themselves, Fan Shaoyou and Zhao Lu, say they aren't worried about who will care for them when they're older.
Those with children can appear older than they are because there are so many things to worry about. I have less burdens, and some say I look younger than my age.
They're focused on enjoying their lives and staying fit and healthy for as long as possible. Katrina Yu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
So that's some news coming out of China, where a once-in-a-decade census is scheduled to take place.
Yeah, so I believe in a video we saw that couples say that they had opted to just take care of their dog rather than have a child of their own. So just goes to show how the population is growing in China and how people are unable to just like have more children because just the constraints that come with living in a heavily populated area. So there's obviously scampering for resources and just other amenities, I would say, and just a like.
But he'll be like, yeah, so
there's an issue there. So we also have an issue of people aging. So there's like a really large population of the aged. So yeah, people have to take care of those as well. We've seen people in their 80s, 90s. Obviously, they'll have to be taken care of. So rather than taking care of your child, you have to take care of your grandparents.
Right.
So just a reversal. Yeah, of course.
Just before we actually end tonight's episode of News Reports, some interesting news popped up today, and which, of course, is to do with the Lusaka mayor. First of all, he has gone back to work as well, together with Mr. Kangombe as well. I think the 3 months probation or a suspension, I think, has come to an end, and they have to go back to the office as well. So in other news, anyway, so listen what I'm going to say now. The mayor of the city of Lusaka has today launched the Extra Miles Lusaka Cab with an initial 7 Mercedes-Benz E-Class vehicles offloaded for immediate use at a fixed fare of 100 kwacha. And someone was saying, why would someone choose, to put up Mercedes-Benz as a taxi? Is that your thought as well?
Yeah, definitely. You begin to ask, like, is it really a viable thing? Is it cost effective? Is it the most cost effective thing you can do? Because you look at the consumption and just the maintenance of the vehicle. So there are a lot of nitty-gritty issues that have to be addressed here. But then for him to actually go all out and launch, obviously, I believe he's smart enough to have put all those things in consideration. So we're just yet to see how this will go and what will be made out of this.
What do you want to see? It's already there.
But then let's see how it will
work. Okay, for me, I feel that, there's the power of association as well. Yeah. And I think there's plan B for this plan A. This is someone that obviously has been doing business for a very long time. He's one person that is, qualified, to handle certain things and responsibilities as well. And this is a project, obviously, that he thought about a long time ago when he says he was the MP as well, and probably this has been his dream as well. Now, what I want to add is that I think it's okay to actually inculcate, the idea of having to enjoy luxury.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be something that a child will look at a Benz and be like, wow, that car. It should just be something that should just be like normal. Look at other countries as well. They use those cars as cabs, and it's okay.
But then you have to look at the
But
market.
it also has to start from somewhere. So if no one starts it, how is it going to start? Are we waiting for the flash buses to turn into Benzes or Benzos, 10, 20 years from now to actually see some kind of development? I think for one to really take such a bold step to doing this, others might actually follow. And I was just telling you today, look at the value of a Benz. When you buy it, it's very expensive. But when you resell it, it's not, it doesn't really cost as much because the value of it drops as well. I know probably there are issues to do with gas, fuel, and whatnot. But I think the same way that one uses it to commute on a personal level, it's possible for it to work for one to use it as a commercial or as a business.
Yeah, okay, but I still stand by my initial point where it's a bit bizarre. I don't know if this will work. I hope it works. But then I believe, why couldn't he have gotten maybe smaller cars?
Chimwanga, you have a PhD syndrome.
No. I believe, how is it going to work though? Is it the most economically viable thing to do? I believe if he could have bought maybe smaller cars, maybe
But
for
who are you to detect for him the economy when he knows, when he's comfortable to
let's
do
see how
what?
it works out. Let's have this
for
conversation.
who? For you or for him?
Okay, let's have this conversation like 2 months from now and see how it works out. Because who's paying the 100 kwacha anyway? The fixed charge.
It's the one that's taking a ride.
Fixed charge?
Yes.
What if you say you're going to Kitwe?
It doesn't matter.
Does that make any
did
sense?
say going to Kitwe within, so the routes within.
But
Not
then,
that you have to go to Kitwe or else. If you're going as far as that, then obviously the charge will be higher than that, and probably you'll bring in
But
other.
then I said it's a
Maybe
fixed
you'll
charge.
have
It's
like
fixed,
an
it has
electric
to-
train at the time, to take you
if it
to
says
Copper
it's
Belt.
fixed, then it has to be 100 kwacha, whatever the case. Or maybe is it 100 kwacha lending it out to a driver?
No, this 100 kwacha is a fixed fee for the person that is commuting.
That's quite disturbing. Like, I don't know. I don't get the rationale.
Okay, let's
behind
see
that.
how it works out. Some people begin to do such, you open up a store, probably food joint, and you want to give people, value for their money. Probably you sell your product or services at a lower price to get attraction. So probably it's just for, customers to actually be attracted to that type of particular market as well before you can launch out and increase the amount. So yeah, let's see how this 100 kwacha will fare. But then after some time, if it's going to increase, then that's well and good, because obviously this will already have
If the
attracted.
business will continue, not if
It will continue. I have faith. And might I add that he's looking for female drivers. So female drivers are the ones that are going to actually be driving these Benzos.
Shouldn't it be for
He's
the most
empowering the
competent
female.
drivers rather than female?
Well, come on. You would think we're bad drivers.
No, I'm just saying. It's a question, rather.
This route that you've chosen to take right
Anyway,
now,
this
I
is
think
a
we'll
conversation
finish it
for another
away
day,
from the screen as well. But I think it's high time that a lot of women now get empowered. Of course, you will not be chosen because you're a woman, not just because of that, but because you have, the capabilities to actually, run certain type of a business. When you look at Ulendo, it's not only limited to males. Obviously, there are female drivers as well, depending on what you are comfortable with as well. And I think maybe it's the same logic that is being applied to this extra miles business as well. And so on that argumentative note, we would like to say thank you so much for joining us on this evening's news report. Join us again tomorrow at the same time. This has been Salifyanji, Bweupe, and Chimwanga Kalala on behalf of the entire production crew saying good night, God bless, and see you tomorrow.